After our family dinner, I checked my bank account, and the number on the screen froze my blood. 0. 40 years of saving, working, sacrificing, gone in a single night. I stared at the phone until my reflection blurred, and from the living room, I heard a laugh, my son's laugh, but not the one I remembered. It was sharp, cruel, hollow. The kind of sound that could cut through the walls of a home that once held love. "My dear," he said, sitting back on my sofa, as if it belonged to him, "you don't need that much money. You've lived your life. It's our turn now." His wife, Vanessa, nodded beside him with that tight, practiced smile, the kind people wear when they've already decided who the victim will be. And that's when I understood something I never wanted to believe. They hadn't come to make peace. They had come to collect. My name is Charlotte Benson, and that was the night I stopped being afraid of losing anything, because when your own blood betrays you, there's nothing left to fear. When Andrew called me that morning, his voice sounded softer. Then I remembered the kind of softness that makes you believe in miracles. 3 months had passed since our last conversation, 3 months of silence after the arguments about his father's inheritance, after the shouting, after the slammed doors, and cold words that cut deeper than any knife. "Mom," he said over the phone, "Vanessa and I want to have dinner with you tonight. At your place? We'll cook. Let's fix things." Those words cracked something inside me. For weeks, I had prayed for that call, the chance to make things right, to feel like a family again. I had spent nights staring at old photographs, my boys at the beach, my husband Thomas in his work apron, Andrew smiling with flour on his cheeks as we baked cookies. I wanted to believe my son had remembered who he was. So I said yes, without hesitation. The house felt alive again that afternoon. I opened the curtains wide so the light could fill every corner. I polished the dining table until it gleamed. I laid out the good plates, the ones I only used on holidays, and ironed a clean tablecloth. Then I went to my closet and took out the olive green dress Andrew loved when he was a child. "You look like a princess in that one, Mom," he used to say, tugging at the hem while I laughed. I wanted him to see that same mother again, not the tired, lonely widow who had buried her husband 6 months ago, not the woman he'd yelled at over money, but the one who still believed in him. In my jewelry box, I found the pearl necklace Thomas had given me on our 20th anniversary. Each pearl marked a year of our life, together a life we had built with small dreams and long days. When I held it, I could almost hear his voice. "Charlotte, protect what we built, even from those you love most." Back then, I thought he meant strangers, scammers, people from the outside. I never imagined the warning would one day point to our own son. By 6 o'clock, everything was ready. The air smelled of jasmine rice and curry, my favorite dish. Vanessa arrived with a bag full of ingredients and a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Andrew followed, holding a bouquet of white lilies, my favorite flowers, the ones I used to keep in the kitchen when Thomas was alive. "Mom," Andrew said, placing the flowers on the table, "we've missed you." And I wanted so desperately to believe him. During dinner, he spoke about his new business, a construction company he wanted to expand. His eyes lit up with the same passion he had as a boy building forts in the backyard. Vanessa nodded proudly, chiming in about their plans, their hopes, their dreams. For a moment, it felt like the past had returned. We laughed about small things, my overcooked desserts, his teenage guitar phase, the way Thomas used to hum while he fixed the faucet. The sound of their voices filled the room like music I'd forgotten existed. Then somewhere between dessert and coffee, the tone shifted. Andrew's voice softened, and he took my hand. "Mom," He said I owe you an apology. I was cruel these past months. I let my pride get in the way. Business hasn't been good. We're drowning in debt, and when Dad passed, I thought you could help us. I shouldn't have demanded it. I should have asked. I felt tears burn behind my eyes. I squeezed his hand. Your father and I saved that money for our old age, I said gently. But if you truly need it, we can find a way that's fair for everyone. He smiled, then a smile that reached his eyes this time. For a fleeting second, I thought the worst was behind us. I thought forgiveness had found its way back into our home. But the truth I would learn later is that predators always smile before they strike. It happened after dessert. The laughter had settled, the plates were stacked, and the house smelled of cinnamon and jasmine. I was pouring tea when I noticed a silent exchange between Andrew and Vanessa, a glance so brief and practiced that it almost looked innocent. But something in my chest tightened. Andrew cleared his throat and leaned forward. Mom, he said, his tone suddenly formal. Before we talk about the loan, there's something we need to do first. I smiled, still half lost in the warmth of the evening. Of course, dear. What is it? He took his phone out of his pocket, the screen already open to his banking app. I need you to transfer the money tonight. All of it. Things are urgent. The room fell silent. My hand froze midair, the teapot still tilted. Tonight, I repeated. But why the rush? We can go to the bank tomorrow. Speak to the manager, do it properly. Vanessa's voice sliced through the air, smooth but cold. It has to be now, Charlotte. There's an investment opportunity that expires at midnight. It's the chance of a lifetime. She smiled, though her eyes didn't match it. You have your banking app on your phone, don't you? It's very simple. Just a few clicks. Something deep inside me stirred an instinct that had been quiet for too long. A mother's intuition sharpened by decades of sacrifice and survival. But I looked at Andrew, my son, my pride, my blood, and the doubt began to fade. I don't understand, I said softly. $50,000 is a lot of money, Andrew. Your father and I worked for decades to save it. That money represents our life together. Andrew sighed impatiently and moved to sit beside me. He took my hands, his touch no longer tender. Mom, don't you trust me? I'm your son. I would never hurt you. Besides, technically, part of that money is mine. Dad left it for the family. And there it was. The mask slipping. This wasn't reconciliation. This was an ambush. I swallowed hard. Your father left it to me because he trusted I would take care of it until I'm gone. Then you and Nathan will share it equally. That's what he wanted. Andrew stood abruptly, pacing the room like a caged animal. I can't wait for you to die to get what's mine. Mom, his voice cracked with desperation. My business is collapsing. They're going to take my house. Don't you understand? Your son needs you. Vanessa's hand landed on my shoulder. Her touch sent a chill down my spine. Charlotte, you've had your life. You're 65. The house is paid off. The bills are light. It's time to help the next generation. Andrew turned, his face hardening. If you don't help us now, he said, lowering his voice, you'll lose more than money. You'll lose your family. You'll never see the kids again. Vanessa thinks you're not a good influence anyway. The words cut through me like glass. My grandchildren, little Noah and Emma, were my light, my reason for waking up. The thought of losing them felt like losing the last pieces of Thomas I still had. I looked at my son, this grown man who had once run into my arms with scraped knees and a smile, and for a moment I didn't see him. I saw a stranger wearing his face. All right, I whispered, my voice trembling. But not all of it. I can give you $5,000 tonight. The rest, after you show me your business plan, numbers guarantees. Vanessa and Andrew exchanged another look. It wasn't gratitude. It was calculation. That's not enough, Andrew said calmly, too calmly. It's 50,000 tonight, or tomorrow I'll go to a lawyer. I'll contest Dad's will. I'll tell them you manipulated him when he was dying. My breath caught in my throat. Andrew, you know that's not true. The court won't, Vanessa said, crossing her arms. And legal battles are expensive. All your savings will vanish in fees anyway. Better to just give it to us now. For a moment, I couldn't move. The walls felt closer, the air thicker. My own home had turned into a trap, and the people who said it were the ones I had raised and fed and loved. Then Thomas's voice echoed in my mind the same words he'd whispered before he died. There are wolves who wear familiar faces. Protect what we built. I took a long breath and looked my son in the eyes. And what if I don't? He leaned so close, I could feel his breath. Then you'll lose everything, Mom, your family, your dignity, your reputation. I'll make sure everyone thinks you've lost your mind. Vanessa smiled faintly, adding, your brother Nathan already thinks you've been acting strangely. He told us he's worried about you. Lies. I knew my younger son would never betray me. But their words were precise, aimed at my weakest points: love, guilt, motherhood. They wanted to break me down until I signed my own ruin. With trembling fingers, I reached for my phone. Andrew and Vanessa leaned in, watching every move. Good, Andrew murmured. You're doing the right thing. But I wasn't, because in that moment, I decided something. If they thought I was weak, they were about to learn just how strong a mother can be when she's cornered. My fingers hovered over the phone screen, the soft glow lighting Andrew's eager eyes. Vanessa stood behind him, leaning over his shoulder like a vulture watching its meal. Go ahead, Mom, she whispered sweetly. Just enter the numbers and confirm. It'll only take a second. I opened the banking app, pretending my hands were shaking from age instead of anger. All right, I said softly. Tell me the account number. Andrew began dictating the digits, his tone brisk, businesslike. Vanessa typed them into her phone, double-checking, as if this were a corporate transaction instead of a mother's betrayal. But as they stared at the glowing screen in my hands, they didn't notice something. My thumb never pressed confirm. I was simply navigating menus, pretending to type, pretending to submit. Years of motherhood had taught me one thing: when someone tries to use guilt against you, silence is your sharpest weapon. You don't fight their noise with noise. You let them believe. When I finally tapped the screen and locked my phone, I whispered, "It's done." Andrew's face lit up like a child on Christmas morning. I knew you'd do the right thing, Mom, he said, hugging me with a force that stole my breath. You're the best mother in the world. The words felt like acid on my skin. Vanessa leaned in and kissed my cheek. Thank you, Charlotte. You have no idea how much this means to us. Oh, I said, forcing a calm smile. I think I do. They left quickly, claiming they needed to wake up early for the bank. Their footsteps echoed down the driveway, their laughter fading into the night. I stood by the window watching their car disappear into the dark. The moment the taillights vanished, I dropped the mask. My knees went weak, but I didn't cry. Not this time. I went straight to my bedroom, opened the drawer, and pulled out my old phone, the one I hadn't used in months, but still had my banking app logged in. My heart thudded so loudly, I could barely hear the night outside. I entered my password, balance $50, every cent still there. I pressed a trembling hand over my mouth, half in relief, half in disbelief. My deception had worked. They truly believed they had won. But relief doesn't last long when you know what kind of people you're dealing with. Sooner or later, they would discover the truth. And when they did, they would come back angrier, hungrier, more dangerous than before. I changed my password. I locked the phone inside my bedside drawer and sat on the edge of the bed, listening to the faint ticking of the clock. Outside, A gust of wind rattled the windows, and the house groaned like it was remembering something, maybe all the times it had held my laughter, my husband's voice, my children's footsteps. Now it was holding its breath with me. I was a woman alone but not helpless. I had spent a lifetime keeping a home, stretching a dollar patching holes no one else saw. I could do this. I would do this. But before I could plan my next move, I heard it, the sharp screech of tires on the gravel driveway. Headlights flared through the curtains. Then came the sound I will never forget. Fists pounding on the front door, voices rising, breaking the night open. "Mom, open this door right now." Andrew's voice, furious, ragged, unrecognizable. My hands turned cold. They had found out. Vanessa's scream followed shrill and venomous. "Don't play games, Charlotte. We know you lied. Open up before we break it down." The banging grew louder, the walls trembling under their rage. I backed away from the door, heart hammering. This wasn't my son anymore. This was something else wearing his face. I ran to my bedroom, locked the door, and grabbed my phone. My voice shook as I whispered to the 911 operator, "Please come quickly. My son is trying to break into my house. He's angry. I think he wants to hurt me." From the other side of the door came a thunderous crash. Wood splintered. Glass shattered somewhere down the hall. They were inside. Mom Andrew roared, "Give me the password or you're going to regret it." I pressed my back against the bathroom door and whispered to the operator again, "Please hurry. Please." The line stayed open. The dispatcher's calm voice guided me to stay quiet, to stay hidden, to wait. Then came another crash, louder, closer. Andrew had found the bedroom door. Charlotte Vanessa shrieked, "You think you can outsmart us?" Each bang shook the floor. I stared at my reflection in the bathroom mirror. A woman with gray hair, trembling hands, and eyes wide with terror. And for the first time, I didn't recognize myself. But then, deep under the fear, something hardened. The woman in the mirror straightened her back. If they wanted to destroy me, they would have to face the woman who had survived. Everything life had already thrown her way: widowhood, loneliness, betrayal. They would learn that I wasn't just their victim, I was their mother. And I wasn't done fighting. The sound of wood splintering filled the hallway. The old door that had protected my family for decades was giving way under my son's rage. "Open up!" he roared, slamming his shoulder into it again and again. "You think you can lie to me, Mom. You think you can cheat your own son. Please stop." I cried through the crack, my voice trembling but firm. "Andrew, listen to me. This isn't you." But he didn't stop. His fury had drowned out every trace of reason. Vanessa's voice joined his higher and sharper. "Find her purse. The cards must be in there." I heard drawers being ripped open, furniture crashing. The sound of my life being torn apart, piece by piece. I pressed myself against the bathroom wall, clutching my phone like it was a cross. The dispatcher's voice whispered through the line, "Calm but distant officers are on the way, ma'am. Stay where you are. Don't move." Then came silence, the kind of silence that hurts your ears. I could hear my own heartbeat, rapid and heavy, and then Andrew's footsteps, slow, deliberate, moving toward my room. "Mom," he said, his voice suddenly soft, eerily calm. "You've got one more chance. Come out and give me the password. Don't make me do something I'll regret." I didn't answer. My throat was too tight. I heard him mutter to Vanessa. Then his footsteps retreated. For a moment, I thought he'd given up. But then came a different sound, metallic scraping against the tiles of the hallway. A hammer. "Mom," he said right outside the bathroom door. "Now I hope you reconsidered, because I just brought something that'll open this door a lot faster." The first blow shook the walls. Wood cracked splinters raining down like tiny daggers. I screamed before I could stop myself. "Andrew, stop! Please let them come!" he shouted. "By the time they get here, I'll have what's mine." Vanessa laughed, an awful manic laugh somewhere behind him. "You should have just listened, Charlotte. You brought this on yourself." I curled into the farthest corner, clutching my phone against my chest. The mirror above the sink cracked from the vibrations, a jagged web splitting across my reflection. And then the hammer punched a hole through the door. I saw his eye through the splintered gap. Wild, unrecognizable. "Andrew," I screamed. "You're scaring me." "Good," he shouted. "Maybe now you'll finally do what you're told." The hammer came down, again and again, widening the hole. His hand reached through, fumbling for the latch. "I almost have it," he yelled to Vanessa. "Get the sheets. We'll tie her up if we have to tie me up. My own son." Something inside me broke and rebuilt itself all in one heartbeat. I wasn't going to beg. I wasn't going to plead. I stood trembling, but tall, and said through the door, "You can take my money, Andrew, but you'll never take my soul." He froze for a second long enough for me to hear it. Sirens. Faint at first, then closer. Red and blue lights flashed through the window panes as the wail of police cars filled the night. "Do you hear that?" I shouted, my voice rising fierce and steady. "They're coming for you." "Damn it," Andrew yelled. "It's too late." He dropped the hammer, cursing, running to the window. "They've surrounded the house." Vanessa's voice cracked. "What do we do now?" But there was no time to plan. The front door burst open with a deafening crash. Boots thudding across the floor. Police hands up. Through the gap in the bathroom door, I saw flashlights sweep across the hallway. "Ma'am, are you in there?" a voice called out. "Here," I cried. In the bathroom, the next thing I knew, strong hands were cutting the lock, pulling the door open. I stumbled out, shaking. An officer guided me aside, his voice gentle. "You're safe now." Behind him, I saw Andrew on his knees, hands behind his head, the hammer glinting on the floor beside him. Vanessa stood frozen sheets, still in her hands, the same ones she had planned to tie me with. The sight of them broke something in me that would never heal completely. I didn't scream. I didn't curse. I just whispered the truth that had been sitting on my tongue all night. "You didn't just steal my money. You tried to steal my heart. But that's one thing you'll never touch again." As the police led them away, their shadows stretched across the hallway, the same hallway where Andrew had taken his first steps. And I watched from the doorway, silent tears running down my face. And in that moment, I didn't feel like a victim. I felt like a survivor. The house fell silent after they were gone, an empty, trembling kind of silence. The kind that follows a storm when the air still tastes like fear. I sat on the edge of my bed while a female officer wrapped a blanket around my shoulders. Her touch was firm, but kind. "You're safe now, ma'am," she said softly. "They can't hurt you anymore. Safe." The word echoed in my head, strange and hollow. Because as I looked around, nothing felt safe. Not the walls, not the furniture, not even the air I breathed. My home, the one Thomas and I had built with patience and love, was now a crime scene. The bathroom door hung broken. The mirror shattered the floor, littered with splinters and glass. Across the hall, 2 officers were photographing the evidence. The hammer, the torn sheets, my purse overturned on the floor. Every image they took felt like a wound being documented. "Ma'am," said another officer, a man about Andrew's age, with kind eyes that made me ache, "you did the right thing." Calling for help was the only way this could end safely. I nodded, unable to find words. My voice had deserted me somewhere between the first crash of the hammer and the flash of the police lights. He hesitated, then asked gently. "Do you want to press charges?" I lifted my head and looked out the window, where the patrol cars glowed under the night sky. I could see Andrew being led into the back seat, his hands cuffed, his head bowed. Vanessa followed behind, tears streaking her face. For a long time, I just stared. He looked up once, just once, and our eyes met. In his, I saw something I didn't expect. Not anger, not even shame, but disbelief. As if he still couldn't understand how a mother could call the police on her own son. But I wasn't calling on my son. I was calling on a criminal. And that's what I whispered to the officer. "Yes, I want to press every charge possible." He nodded solemnly and began taking notes. 3 hours later, the house was empty again. The officers were gone. The flashlights off, the silence heavier than ever. I walked through the wreckage like someone moving through a stranger's home. The floor was covered in broken glass and footprints. The bed was unmade, the drawers open, the curtains torn. The air smelled of sweat, fear, and something metallic, the scent of betrayal. And then I saw it. A framed photograph lying face down on the floor. The glass cracked, but the picture inside untouched. It was of Andrew and Nathan when they were little, holding hands in the backyard, smiling with missing teeth, Thomas standing behind them with his arm around my shoulder. I sank to my knees and picked it up. My hands trembled as I wiped away the dust. That was the boy I had raised. That was the son I had loved. The one who promised to take care of me when his father was gone. I pressed the photo to my chest and finally let myself cry. Not for the money, not even for the house, but for the child I had lost long before tonight. The one who had vanished behind the greed, the debts, and the lies. When I could breathe again, I called Nathan. It was nearly dawn when he answered, his voice thick with worry. "Mom, what happened? The police just called me." "I'm all right," I whispered. But Andrew isn't. He arrived less than an hour later. The moment he stepped through the door, he froze. Oh my God. He breathed, taking in the damage. "Mom." "What did he do?" I told him everything. The dinner, the lies, the threats, the hammer. He listened in silence, jaw-clenched, hands shaking. When I finished, he sat beside me and took my hand. "You did nothing wrong," he said firmly. "Nothing. Don't you ever doubt that." But I did doubt. I doubted every decision, every kindness, every moment I'd let love blind me. Nathan stood and began pacing. "We'll file for a restraining order immediately. I'll handle the legal side. You just rest." He turned back to me, his voice softer now. "Mom, do you think I'm angry with you for calling the police?" I shook my head, unable to speak. He knelt down so we were eye level. "You didn't call the police on your son," he said quietly. "You called them on a man who tried to destroy you. There's a difference." That was the first time I truly exhaled. He spent the night on the couch, baseball bat beside him, like an old-fashioned guard. I couldn't sleep. Every creak of the house made me flinch. At 3 a.m, I walked to the kitchen for tea. There, stuck to the refrigerator, was a photo of Andrew at 8 years old, grinning his arm around Nathan after a soccer game. They looked happy, innocent. The boys I thought would grow into good men. I touched the photo with trembling fingers. "Where did I go wrong?" I whispered. Nathan appeared behind me, sleepy but alert. "You didn't go wrong, Mom. You gave us both the same love. I chose to protect it. He chose to destroy it." I turned toward him, tears spilling again. "He was my pride, Nathan, my joy for 40 years. He nodded. "And for the past few months, he's been your torment. It's over now. Let's make sure it stays that way." Outside, dawn began to break, pale light, touching the ruined furniture, the shattered glass, the pieces of my old life. But somehow, it didn't look hopeless anymore. Because sometimes the worst night of your life is the first morning of your freedom. The morning after the storm, sunlight crept timidly through the broken windows, landing on the splinters scattered across my living room floor. I sat in silence, staring at the light like it was an unfamiliar visitor. Everything felt unreal. The night's chaos, the sirens, the hammer against the door. When the phone rang, I almost didn't pick up. My hands were still trembling. "Mrs. Benson," a calm voice said. "This is Detective Samuel Ruiz. I'm the lead on your case. I wanted to let you know that both suspects are in custody. Both suspects." He said it like he was talking about strangers. But those strangers were my son and his wife. "They've been charged with attempted robbery, assault, and elder abuse," Ruiz continued. "We'll need your statement in full, and your son's lawyer may contact you. Are you safe where you are safe?" The word again. I looked around my shattered home. The couch overturned the walls, scarred, and realized I wasn't. Not in this house. Not in this city. Not in the same memories where I had raised him. "I'll stay with my sister for a while," I said quietly. "Good," Ruiz replied. "We'll keep you updated." When I hung up, I felt the smallest flicker of control returning. It wasn't peace, not yet, but it was something to hold on to. By afternoon, Nathan helped me pack a small suitcase, some clothes, my old photo album, and the pearl necklace Thomas had given me all those years ago. When I touched it, it no longer felt like a memory. It felt like armor, Mom Nathan said as he closed the suitcase. "You need a fresh start. Go to Aunt Diana's. Rest. Heal. I'll handle everything here, the house repairs, the restraining order, the legal mess. You just breathe again." For once, I didn't argue. Diana lived in Arizona, a quiet town, framed by desert skies and the low hum of cicadas. The moment I arrived, she opened the door before I even knocked, pulling me into a hug so tight that the walls I'd built around my heart finally cracked. "No explanation," she whispered. "You're home now. Home." That word felt new again. Her house smelled of lavender and fresh bread. Sunlight spilled through every window. At night, the air cooled, and the crickets sang a rhythm my shattered nerves had forgotten existed. For the first few days, I couldn't sleep through the night. I'd wake up at the smallest sound, half expecting to hear banging on the door again. Diana never questioned it. She'd just bring tea and sit beside me until I calmed down. One morning, she said, "Come to yoga class with me." Yoga. I laughed weakly. "You know I'm not flexible enough to touch my toes anymore." "Exactly," she smiled. "That's why you need it." The class met under a grove of tall trees at the edge of town. Women my age moved slowly on colorful mats, breathing in unison. The instructor's voice was calm, steady, the way I imagined peace might sound if it were a person. At first, I could barely keep up. My knees ached, my balance wobbled. My mind wandered back to the house, to the sound of Andrew's hammer against the door. But every breath, every stretch, every gentle smile from the women around me began to stitch something back together. After class, a woman named Helen Parker sat beside me on a bench. First time she asked kindly. I nodded. "You could tell." She chuckled. "We all start like that. I came here 2 years ago after my husband left me for his secretary. I thought my life was over. Turns out, it was just beginning." Her words lingered in my mind all afternoon. Maybe survival wasn't the end of the story. Maybe it was the start. That evening, Diana and I had dinner on the porch. The desert sky turned from gold to violet, the stars appearing one by one. "You look better," she said. "You're breathing again." I smiled faintly. Some nights I still hear his voice, Diana. Not the one that yelled, the one that said, "I love you, Mom." I can't stop wondering when that boy disappeared. She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. He disappeared the moment greed took over. "That's not on you, Charlotte. You raised him right. But every person chooses their own road. He chose his. I nodded slowly. The wind shifted, carrying the scent of sage through the air. For the first time in months, I felt something resembling peace settle inside me, fragile, but real. The next morning, I woke up early and stepped outside barefoot. The earth was cool, the sunrise spreading across the desert like a quiet promise. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like a mother waiting for forgiveness. I felt like a woman beginning again. I thought of Thomas, his voice, his hands, his steady eyes. "I'm all right now," I whispered to the wind. I protected what we built, and somehow I knew he heard me. Months passed in the slow rhythm of healing. The sun rose and set over the Arizona desert, and with each new day, a little of the weight on my chest lifted. I began walking again in the mornings, sometimes with Deanna, sometimes alone. I learned to love the quiet, the kind of silence that doesn't hurt, but listens. One afternoon, while trimming the rose bushes in Diana's yard, my phone rang. It was Nathan. His voice was calm, but carried the kind of tone children use when they're protecting a parent. "Mom," he said gently. They've finished the sentencing. Andrew and Vanessa both pleaded guilty. I froze, pruning shears hanging loosely in my hand. "How long?" I asked. "5 years for Andrew," Nathan replied. 18 months for Vanessa. "The prosecutor said your testimony made the difference." 5 years. A lifetime and a blink at the same time. Nathan continued. Vanessa's mother, Margaret Cole, reached out. She wanted to apologize for what her daughter did. "She sent you something." A few days later, a package arrived, a small box tied with a simple ribbon. Inside was a handwritten note, "Mrs. Benson. I can't erase what my daughter did, but I can honor the woman who stood her ground. Please accept this check for the damage done to your home and for being strong when I wasn't. With respect, Margaret Cole." Beside the note was a check for $10,000. But it wasn't the money that made me cry. It was the acknowledgement. Someone had finally said the words I'd been waiting to hear. "You were right to protect yourself." I didn't cash the check. I framed the letter instead and placed it on the dresser beside Thomas's photograph. A week later, Nathan called again, this time with a different tone, lighter somehow. "Mom Social Services asked if you'd be open to something," he said. "Noah and Emma are staying with Vanessa's parents for now, but they're struggling. The kids miss you. Would you consider applying for temporary custody?" The words made my heart stop. "Custody. Yes." Nathan said, his voice warm now. "You'd have every right. And you'd be amazing at it. Those kids need you." That night, I sat on the porch with Diana, staring at the horizon as the sun melted into the desert. "Raising children again at 65, I said, with a half smile. "Do you think I'm crazy?" Diana handed me a glass of lemonade and smiled back. "Charlotte, you were born to love. That's not crazy. That's purpose." 2 weeks later, I stood before a family court judge with Nathan by my side. The courtroom smelled of paper and polish, the air heavy with silence. When the judge asked if I was prepared for the challenges of raising 2 young children at my age, I straightened my back and said, "Your Honor, I may not be young, but I am capable. I have a stable home, steady income, and more love than those children will ever know what to do with." He studied me for a moment, then smiled. Temporary custody granted. When the gavel struck, I felt something in me reopen, not the old pain, but a new kind of strength. 2 weeks later, I stood at the airport in Phoenix, waiting at the arrival gate. When I saw Noah running toward me, his little backpack bouncing against his shoulders, I barely had time to open my arms. He collided into me with all the force of 1,000 unsaid words. "Grandma!" he shouted. Behind him, little Emma clutched her stuffed rabbit, shy but smiling. "Are we staying with you forever, Grandma?" I knelt to meet her eyes, tears slipping down my cheeks. "You're staying as long as you need, sweetheart." And yes, I hope that's forever. The first night in our new home was quiet, but warm. Noah and Emma had their own rooms, bright, full of books and sunlight. As I tucked them in, Noah whispered, "Grandma, when are Dad and Mom coming home?" I paused, smoothing his blanket. "Your dad is learning to be a better man," I said softly. "And your mom will see you again soon. But for now, you're safe here. That's what matters." He nodded, eyes heavy with sleep. "I like it here," he murmured. "It feels peaceful." After they fell asleep, I sat on the porch beneath a sky crowded with stars. The desert air was cool, carrying the faint scent of sage. In the distance, an owl called slow and steady, like the heartbeat of the night. That's when I saw the letter. Nathan had left it on the small table beside me. The envelope was stamped with the state prison's seal. It was from Andrew. For a long time, I just held it. I didn't want to open it, didn't want his words to break the fragile calm I'd built. But curiosity and love, even wounded love, is stubborn. Inside the handwriting was shaky, uneven, but unmistakably his. "Mom, I know I don't deserve this letter, but I need to tell you that I'm sorry. Truly sorry. There's not a day I don't think about what I did to you, to Dad's memory, to my own children. I'm trying to change. I'm in therapy. I'm learning things about myself that scare me. I've told my lawyer I want you to have full custody of Noah and Emma permanently. They're better off with you, always were. I don't expect forgiveness. I just hope someday you'll believe that the son you raised is trying to come back. Your son, Andrew." I read it twice, then folded it carefully and placed it beside Thomas's photograph. My tears came quietly this time, not out of pain, but out of release. Because even though I didn't know if forgiveness would ever be possible, I knew healing already was. Weeks later, as I watched Noah and Emma chase butterflies in the garden, I realized something simple and profound. The worst day of my life had given birth to the best version of me. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was living fiercely, freely, and with purpose. As the sunset painted the sky gold and rose, Emma ran up to me, holding a daisy in her tiny hand. "For you, Grandma," she said with a giggle. I knelt, taking it from her. "Thank you, sweetheart. It's beautiful." She tilted her head, studying me. "Grandma, are you happy now?" I smiled, the kind of smile that comes after walking through fire and realizing you're still whole. "Yes," I said. "For the first time in a long time, I really am." And as the desert wind brushed against my face, I finally understood healing wasn't forgetting what happened. It was remembering who I'd been before it did.